So my path as a village teacher began with Miss Velasquez and Bruce Springsteen. That's right, the boss. So I remember my first day of class with Miss Velasquez, and we walked in. It was 4th grade. It was at Irwin Open School in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she began by greeting us at her door, listening to our stories, listening to the stories of our names, learning about our passions, learning about our talents. She was building that foundational relationship with each of us. But then one day, we walked in, and she lined us up, all in front of the class. And she said, before you go out to PE today, I want you all to sing, "We Are the World." We all looked at each other and kind of scratching our heads. And she said, look, there's a 45 record player over there. I want you to learn the lyrics. And before we go out to PE, I want you to sing it for me. So we all walk over to the 45. We listen to the song and we write down the lyrics. And we line up in front of Miss Velasquez and begin to sing. We are the world, we are the world, we are the children. And she stops us. She's like, oh my Lord, that's terrible. Go on out to PE, come back tomorrow, we'll try it again. All right, so we come back in the next day, same thing. I'll go over to the 45 record player, write down the lyrics, come back, start up again. We didn't get a second into it. She's like, hold on. Did you actually listen to the song? Like there are individual parts by individual people. Like you got to be Michael Jackson. You got to be Lionel Richie. You got to be Cyndi Lauper. And somebody's got to be Bruce Springsteen because I love that voice. You got to do that voice. So for 3 weeks, every day, we started going over to that 45 record player, listen to the lyrics, and getting ready to sing for Miss Velasquez. And about a month in, we were ready. We all lined up, right? And man, we nailed it. Because Michael Jackson did his part, Lionel Richie did his part, Cyndi Lauper did his part, and I killed Bruce Springsteen. We are the world, we are the world, we are the children. And Miss Velasquez kicked back, smiled, and said, that's all right there. Now y'all going out to PE. We sat there, wait, that's all the affirmation we get? Like we have been working a month on this and that's it? And she literally looked at us and said, that's all right there, going out to PE. I never understood what Miss Velasquez was doing. You see, Miss Velasquez knew that when each one of her students walked into that class the first couple of weeks, that she had a group of broken kids. I don't know how she knew that my dad had just left my mom and my brother and I. I don't know how she knew the individual stories about each one of the kids in that class. But she knew that she had to create a community of care in that classroom to give us not only our individual voices, but have a voice of collective impact in that class. And this is the power of public education. It's in the ability and the opportunity to allow each and every one of our students a voice and an understanding of their path. And this is what Miss Velasquez dedicates her life to, and this is what each and every one of us who dedicates our lives to the teaching profession does. It's a privilege and a responsibility to walk the path of a village teacher. Now, a village teacher is nothing more than the concept of the old school idea of an old man or an old woman that stays in the village while the parents go off to farm or to hunt, right? And so they stay back, but during that time, they satisfy all the levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They make sure that they serve those physiological needs. They make sure that they're loved and belong. There's a level of self-esteem, and at the very top, there's that piece of self-actualization. And this is where that community of care is developed, and this is where the Shire begins. And this is what Dr. Cornel West calls when he says that education is soul crafting. Because we as educators are literally and figuratively feeding the kids, mind, body, and soul. And this is the role of the village teacher, to think globally, but to teach locally. But Dr. Cornell West also shares another idea, and he said that the greatest threat facing our youth today is the nihilistic threat in the loss of hope and the inability to understand one's purpose, role, and meaning and value. They don't see themselves in the human story. They don't realize their own place and their own purpose. And this, my fellow educator diplomats, this is the purpose and the value of public education. This is its efficacy, to provide and guard opportunity and access to our students through the allowance of their self-actualization, so that they can see themselves in the story. And we do this as village teachers. Recently, as I've been looking at social media, I've noticed that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is now being compared to a Blackfoot tradition. All right? And so Maslow starts with those physiological needs, and then we move up to the love and belonging, and safety, and self-esteem, and self-actualization at the top. But the Blackfoots have it switched. They flip the pyramid, and they say we start with the self, but then from a deep understanding of the self within a community, there is a community actualization. And once the young person realizes that they are a part of something that is much bigger than they ever imagined, then there lies this understanding of the cultural perpetuity of their own life and their own purpose within a shared community, a collective impact. And they call this the breath of life. And there's a myriad of ways as educators that we can make sure that our students understand their role and their purpose and their value. We can create that community of care that nurtures the whole child, that makes sure that social and emotional learning is taken care of. We can make sure that each one of our students see themselves, whether it's related to and connected to a local university or community college, or businesses or industries, or civic institutions. We can create culturally responsive lesson plans that celebrates the diverse beauty of our student stories. And we can also provide them opportunities and global and cultural immersion. So when they develop themselves as global citizens, they begin to see themselves as this big, beautiful world. And to this end, ultimately, we have the power to create a system for each and every one of our students that has hope, where every single person in that community of care sees themselves, their purpose, their value, and their meaning. And I've traveled around this state, and I've seen so many lighthouse educators. So many of them are here in the crowd that I was listening to in the back being celebrated tonight. And it fills me with such great hope because I see each one of them transcending so many of the barriers and issues that we face today in public education. But they are the guides for our students who need to be able to explore this great big world so that they can understand what it means to be human and to find their place. You see, Steve Maraboli has a quote, and he says, if you are not the hero of your own journey, then you are missing out on what it means to be human. I've shared the importance and the impact up to this point as to when we allow our students to validate themselves within that community actualization and see that cultural perpetuity and are breathed in life, what it can do for us. Now, I wanted to quickly share what it has done for me, for a kid who's had 3 full names, 5 parents, and who's never had roots in a community or foundational way until I found the Shire. And last fall, I heard that one of my former students at Williams High School was opening a barberia, a barber shop down the street on Church Street in Burlington, North Carolina. And I was like, man, I've got to see this guy and how he has breathed life into the community. So I walk in, and I immediately realized that this is not the place that my 2-decade-old Hobbit haircut style, which is not what I have right now, by the way, okay, would be cut. But I wanted to actualize this student's dream and passion. So I sat there, and in those next 5 seconds, I heard 5 words that for the first time in my life and for the last time in my life, they validated who I was as a human being. This is the moment that I have been searching my entire teaching career for so that my students could grasp what it meant to understand who you are as a human being. And those 5 words were simply this: hey, it's the teacher guy. For the first time in my life, I knew exactly who I was. And if I could bottle that up and give it to every single one of my students, they would never walk into my classroom, into our schools, out into our communities with that fear and that nihilistic threat of a loss of hope in who they are as a human being. Because when the day is done, if every single one of us can put our head on the pillow and realize who we are, just like I did, just the teacher guy. Thank you.